There you go. You're on the air.
All right, good afternoon. It's Bill Harris coming to you again. Part 2, Press Box Overtime. But I hope you watched the first part, talked a little bit about Rockledge, Cocoa, Split, history there with 2 great athletes and great coach back from that time. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time with Coach Leroy Smith. And joining me today, my good friends Doug Cook, Harry Johnson, both played for Coach Smith at Cocoa/Rockledge. Cocoa then moved over, Coach Smith then moved over to my Cocoa High School while I graduated. And some great stories, but before we started, we had lunch together. Again, thanks to Coach Johnson here for sponsoring us, as my dad would say. I wish I had a tape recorder. The things that I heard Coach Smith talk about that first hour. So we're going to spend a little bit of time, part 2, just talking to Coach Leroy Smith. From a family of 10, the youngest child of 10. And the coach was nice enough to share this picture. I'll have to zoom in, but Coach is that young fella right here. But 6 boys and 4 girls. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up at, Coach.
I grew up, was born in 1934 in Lake Helen, Florida, which is in the southwestern side of Volusia County.
Okay.
A little town established back in, I guess, the early 1900s. My father had moved there from South Carolina in the late 1800s.
Wow.
And he married my mom, whose daddy was from North Carolina. They were down doing the turpentine steels. My dad was with the Atlantic Coastline Railroad System, building the track from Jacksonville to Tampa.
Wow.
And he was the fireman, and he used to brag about the fact that he was the fireman from wood to oil. From wood burners to oil burners. And
Wow.
he homesteaded 160 acres in what is now the Deltona area. And later on moved to what is now Lake Helen, where he acquired during his lifetime more than 300 acres, and we grew orange groves and milk cows.
Wow.
And from there, I started milking cows when I was a little bit older than 8 years old, and until they moved in with the electric milkers after I got into junior high school. And before I finished high school, my father sold the dairy because he didn't have us sons to work the dairy.
So some of his labor force wasn't there any longer.
So I had 4 brothers who participated in World War II.
Wow.
And my younger brother in Korea, and I served right after the Korean War, between the Korean War and the Vietnam War.
Okay.
I went to jump school, volunteered and went to jump school when I was drafted and had to extend for 2 more years, so I stayed in the military from 1955 to 1959.
So let me ask you, there's always that joke about why would you jump out of a perfectly fine airplane? How many jumps did you say you took?
I had 64 over that time.
Wow.
Plus, I had some free falls at the Dillon Airport here in Titusville.
Yeah, right.
It is amazing to be in the most peaceful serenity place on earth, and that is between an airplane and the land.
Yeah, I
It's
bet.
most peaceful. It's really peaceful, nothing to worry about.
Right. Well, maybe not. I'm just maybe once that parachute comes out, there's nothing to.
Well, you have to have faith in the chute itself. In the process, you pack in free fall and you pack your own chute.
So nobody else to blame.
In the military, the guys who pack chutes are on the very strenuous responsibility because they have to take and write a report if the chute does not open, and they become really handled as if it was a crime.
Sure.
And so they do a good job of doing that. I only saw a couple of chutes that didn't open properly, and all while I was in the military. So one
during
guy,
your 64 jumps, did you have any mishaps at all?
I saw a couple.
You yourself?
No. I was in the signal section, so I had to jump with what we call a PAE bag, down almost to your waist. And when you get out and your chute open, you have quick releases and let it drop down about 20 feet. And it lands and hit the ground first, and then you second, because I had voice radio sets and batteries in, and an antenna about 16 feet tall, but it was in sections in that bag. And so each time you jump, you had to
drop that down first.
yeah.
So you get out of the service, and I'll let Harry ask it. What got you to Brevard County?
Well, I was home, and a friend of mine we played baseball and football together
In high school? What high school did you go to?
Pardon?
What high school did you go to?
Euclid High School in DeLand.
Euclid High School.
In DeLand. And
What year did you graduate there?
I graduated from high school in 1951. I then went to Bethune-Cookman on a half scholarship for athletics and or part scholarship from what we call the senatorial scholarship because of my grade point average.
Okay.
And so my parents didn't have to pay a whole lot for me going to school.
And what was your degree in when you graduated? What degree?
I graduated with a degree in the physical sciences.
Like is that like PE or was that actually sciences?
Physical science. That
Okay.
was chemistry.
Okay.
In the physical sciences.
You actually taught biology too.
Yeah, I taught biology too, but I was only qualified to do that because of the courses I had taken in college in the biological area. And when I finished college in 51, when I finished in 55, I was drafted into the military. I had been deferred 2 years, my junior year and my senior year, because I got the local board at home had sent me my greetings to enter into the military each year. And so I had been out of college, got out in May, last part of May. June the 16th, I had to be at the MEPS in Jacksonville to honor the draft.
Right.
I went to jump school I went to basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Yeah, my dad went there.
And seeing the recruiters who came in for airborne training, I passed the physical test, and I just got interested in because I told everybody I knew a better way to die than to jump out of an airplane. But
that's pretty good.
Watching those young men who came to recruit us and the way they were dressed, I got all enthused. And so I went to Fort Benning after my basic training and went to jump school there, finished jump school, left there, went to my second aid at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, then down to Fort Gordon in Georgia to radio tech school. learn how to do Morse code and to send shortwave radio. Then was transferred to Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
At Fort Campbell, Kentucky, I was on a demonstration team that went to the Far East. We went to Fuji, Japan, Seoul, Korea, Guam, and several other islands. We had to put on demonstration. We were demonstrating the pentomic concept of the military, small numbers and platoons and one mortar battery. We had put on demonstrations. Went to Alaska.
Wow.
And back to Fort Campbell, Kentucky for the rest of my time. I played baseball on the company team and then played baseball on the post team. Played with Bill White, Dan Osinski, Bob Buell. Played against Ike DeLotte, who used to pitch for Boston, and several others who were professionals.
Now, I just want to remind everybody, this young man is 91, and I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, and he's throwing out all these names of people as if, he still talked to them. And did you say somebody you played baseball with kind of helped you get to Brevard? Is that how you got here? Did somebody?
No, I came with a friend of mine. We played football and baseball in high school.
Okay.
His sister married a young man who taught school at Monroe.
Gotcha.
And to visit, I got home like on a Wednesday. That Saturday we came to Cocoa. I was retired from actually out of the military.
Right.
Came to Cocoa in '59 to visit, and his brother-in-law introduced me to the principal of Monroe at that time, and he asked me when could I come for an interview. I told him I was just home from the military, anytime you say. Of course, I was thinking about going back to school.
Right.
But because I had gotten married and divorced while I was in the military, I had some responsibilities, and I had to look after that first. Those was my two kids, my son and my daughter.
Okay.
And I got a job teaching school at Brevard County in 1959.
So
the school board was in Titusville, the old, it was an old, like rental, what they had, like a
motel or something?
Motel.
Yeah,
I think it was on US 1.
Oh, yeah, US
It was
1.
right there on US
Yeah.
1
Remember, I've been
where
I remember that.
not Burger King, but McDonald's used to be part of that area. Right there, they got the big construction there, but it was several little buildings there.
I remember that. Let me ask you this, and just to remind our audience, Stone and Monroe were the black high schools back in the day. We still hadn't segregated. Do you remember how much you made your first year of teaching? I'm just curious.
Well, they had, Mr. Moore had petitioned the state to pay equal pay for teachers, and so I got paid equal pay. I think I started off with $3,200 in annual pay.
How about that? Well,
At that time, we had less than 14,000 students in the whole system of Brevard. It was real primitive.
Right. Yeah.
The worst thing you could do was to go out at almost any time in the day in a grassy area, and the mosquitoes would drive you out. If you played baseball, the guys who played in the outfield, they they had to fight the mosquitoes off with.
That's too funny. That's so you got from there. You then went to what was still Cocoa High.
Yeah.
Before it, and that's when Harry and Doug met you, and we heard a nice story in the first half where your father had passed, unfortunately, and Coach went into the hospital to see him, and again, you got to remember, this is back in the late 60s?
Late 60s.
60s, where a
Yeah,
father
yeah.
asked his coach, keep an eye on my son, watch over my son, etc., and that's a bond that has been 60 plus years that has been together.
Luann Manichek solidified that bond.
How about all right, so that was a story we talked about at lunchtime, in case she watches this episode. So you went there, and I know Doug might have some questions too. What was the process? And you named a whole bunch. You went to Grambling and met Coach Robinson, Coach Paterno. How much did you have back in those days to get your athletes to play at college? Because no fax machine, no cell phone, you had an interesting story. You met Coach Robinson at Grambling. You were out there. You told him about a kid, but you didn't have any film. What did you do then?
The black schools didn't film football at that time, and so we had to deal with what was seen in terms of photographs.
Okay.
And so word of mouth was how we got kids in school.
Okay.
We got lots of kids in school. I had kids go to different schools in North Carolina, Grady Thomas, Walter Jackson, and I could go on and on. I sent his brother would hit the baseball, played with you all, the Jenkinsville.
Larry Jenkins.
Yeah, well, I sent his older brother to Albany State.
Oh, sure.
Along with another kid, I can't think his name. He ended up passing on his, but he used to be one of the secretaries for the Atlanta Braves baseball team. And I'm trying to think of his name now.
And these are athletes that played college level ball back in the 60s that a lot of us had never heard of. And it means a lot that your word of mouth meant something back then. So if a coach, because it was your reputation, but you took a kid out on a Saturday or Sunday, would you have him put his uniform on and take some pictures to send Coach Robinson?
Yeah. When I attended a science institute that was sponsored by the National Science Foundation at Grambling, I met Eddie Robinson. And I used to go up to his home, and he had in the basement a theater, small theater, where he had a projector and lots of film, a film library of the teams. And so I'd go up there and look at football games, and I could stop and rotate back and see.
Oh, cool.
And look at techniques.
Right.
And play. And so while there, he asked me, was any kids in our area that I thought could play football there? And I recommended Norman Davis and Andrew Howard. Andy was a class or so behind Davis. But then I told him they could play there, but I wasn't sure Norman would be available because I thought he was going to A&M. But lo and behold, when I got back from attending the school there that year and going through what was then I had to go to, because I was a part of the National Guard at that time. I used to go 2 weeks, so I had 2 weeks to spend at Fort in Georgia, Fort Benning. I found that Norman hadn't gotten to school, so I immediately contacted him, and I contacted Coach Robinson, and he told me, did I have any film on him? And I told him no, but I could send him some news clippings and some pictures of him in his uniform. So I got Norman, went to the school, went in the gym, and we dressed in uniform, and I took my Polaroid camera and took some pictures of him in different positions and
That's funny.
typed them up and sent them out to Coach Robinson. Within a few days, he called me back and asked me, did I think he could play? I said, yeah, I know he can play.
Oh,
And he took my word and asked me when could I send him. He said, the president isn't here yet, but as soon as he come back, I will check with him, and if he allow me to get him, I'll send you. I told him I'd send him out there to you.
oh,
Now, Norman, Daddy, and Mother didn't have funds enough available to put him on the bus to send him, so I
oh.
spent my earnings to put him on the bus and told him,
Wow.
gave him $20, and I told him, don't eat it all in one place. And put him on the bus.
How about that? Jeez.
There's one little suitcase junk he had,
Uh-huh.
and
We all had a suitcase.
lo and behold, he made all American, black all American,
Wow.
and he got drafted Baltimore
Wow.
when Don Shula was the coach at Baltimore.
Wow. That's really
I
something.
had a chance to go that year to sit on the bench with him as a coach,
Cool.
Norman.
Wow. Very cool. Coach, you got questions you want to ask Coach, or I know you.
Going back, graduated at Bethune-Cookman. You followed Bethune-Cookman through the years. I know that even to this day, 91 years old, he still goes and does the Saturday afternoon tailgating
Oh wow. Good.
and follows the Wildcats up there
Very cool.
with the football. He and I have gone to UCF and watched baseball over there.
Wow.
My nights against his Wildcats through the
And you're
years.
still friends, so that's a good, yeah.
Yeah, well, we have an oath we take just before graduation. And in that oath it says, we depart to serve.
Hmm.
It says, enter to learn and depart to serve. And this is
Hmm.
the kind of oath that I took for serious. That's because I took the oath for this country when I entered the military.
Mhm.
I took the oath when I entered college to enter to learn, and we had to learn. There was no sitting around. It was like a big family,
Right.
and Mrs. Bethune was still living,
Wow.
and when she got up to speak at a school function, you would really get the feeling that this is a lady of renown,
Sure.
concern about you as a person.
Wow.
And it was almost like my parents. My dad used to speak to us in such a way that he would stress education as a means to a better life.
Wow.
And he intended for you to, anything that you could learn, you learned it.
Right.
And so he stressed that, and my whole family gained that kind of
Right.
attitudes when they grew up. And so we all were there to serve and serve well
Good.
the family, the country. I know no other country, so my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and my great-grandfather, which they have the records, all were born here in these United States.
Wow.
And so we all know this is our home.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing.
And we have a role to play
Mm.
as being a servant to our friends. And I will always think of what the good book says.
Mhm.
The good book tells us to expect to be a friend to man.
Mm.
It didn't say mankind, it says be a friend to man. Man just could be any kind,
Right.
as long as he's a man.
Right.
So that's why, I don't care what color you are. I had the best friend I ever had, I believe,
Mhm.
when I was in the military. He was a young man from Birmingham, Alabama, who was Caucasian.
Mhm.
He had been raised by a nanny,
Mhm.
and she was a black lady, and he made out his or what we used to call him, and they made out an allotment to
Hmm.
her.
Hmm.
And when he went home, he'd always go to see her,
Wow.
and he called her mom.
Oh.
And he and I we played baseball together, we jumped from the airplanes together, we were in the same headquarters company, and we never had a crossword.
Wow. That's
He
good.
used to come visit, he passed on here a few years back.
Oh.
He used to come bring his family, and they'd stay right with us right here in this house.
How about that? Wow.
We never had one, and I believe in that kind of relationship with everybody,
Sure.
black, white, or striped. And I
Right.
used to say that.
Or striped.
Lottie, Dottie, and who? Everybody.
Dottie, Dottie, and everybody. Well, look, those are some words that we need to kind of maybe get back to today as far
And
as, but
so
it's good stuff.
we departed to serve,
Right.
and that's what I tried to do. All my days, I've tried to serve wherever I was, because I believe that is how we are supposed to. The old golden rule says, "Do unto others
Yeah,
as you would have them do unto you."
that's
We
right.
grew up with that.
With that said, I'm gonna let Coach Cook ask a question, but and Doug and Harry both brought this up during our first segment that, we see stuff in the news, but here's a coach that was at a black high school, moved over to a white high school when it became segregated, Cocoa, and which became Rockledge, immediately became a coach. There was no, we're gonna take because of who he is. Talked about getting along with everybody back. We grew up in a great area, Cocoa, Rockledge, and it's still a great area as far as I'm concerned. I've seen you writing some stuff down. You got anything you want to ask Coach?
Well, I think, just listening to Coach there was fascinating. I didn't know so much about all this about him, but
Right.
obviously, Coach, your parents were a big factor in how you believe today. You speak about the Lord, which I like that part,
Mhm.
that, and the values that you have. I played for you, and then as a head football coach at Cocoa High School, you coached with me,
Mhm.
and that was such an honor to have you out there with us, just as not only knowledgeable about the game of football, but your values, and as a mentor for all the kids, black or white, it didn't matter. I was always fascinated with that. Now, you talk about serving, and we've all been teachers and administrators. We do serve kids. When you went into education, what got you into education as far as the way your values and things like that? What drove you to be in education to help other kids and so forth?
Well, It wasn't the funds that you made. For sure. It was, I guess, being concerned about kids and families and doing the things that my father instilled in us. My father was a community person. Was nothing he wouldn't do for people with them. And all of my brothers had the same kind of demeanor. Like when I was in school going to Cookman, my brother who was a dentist and the one that was a lawyer, wasn't nothing if I asked them for this or that, but I knew not to ask for things that was out of what my,
necessary or
it wasn't necessary.
Right.
I wasn't going to ask them to do it. They could have probably done it, but I wouldn't ask them. No,
Right.
nah. My sister-in-law from my brother who was the dentist, when he was in World War II, I went and stayed with her for a couple of years. Went to a Catholic school, early grades down in Tampa. And I know what it was like away from home with somebody who was not my parents,
Right.
but was acting as a parent. So I had to govern myself accordingly with her, because she was.
She had a thumb.
Yeah, she had a strap, a belt.
Okay.
And my dad had told her, make sure he act right while I was there. And so, my brother who was a lawyer, I went to New York and stayed with them, went to school 1 year
Wow.
up there because he was in law school, and my sister-in-law was a librarian, and they didn't have nobody to take care of the one baby they had. So I had to go to be the
Wow.
babysitter.
Wow.
But I had plenty of time because I looked at the world there. I could never live there, not for good, because
I don't think any of us.
it was
world there for
it was too chaotic. And so when I come to this county, that was more like it, because I love to fish, I love to hunt. I used to take some of the boys hunting that was in school there, up to some of the property that we owned up in Volusia County.
Wow.
Take them squirrel hunting and stuff of this sort.
How about that?
Several of the kids I took up there with me. They met my sister, who had the 4 boys who played football and baseball. They had went swimming in the swimming pool, because she had swimming pool there and all. And I thought it was the world and all. Your parents own all of this, your plan? And they get amazed. Yeah, my dad, this was home. This is where
Yeah.
I grew up.
Wow.
And he'd take you hunting. We'd go turkey hunting back there off from Lake Ashby. You know where Lake Ashby is? We go up there. That's
Wow.
up near Sam Sula, and rounding back in Osteen, and after that salt, we go fishing in the St. Johns River, up Lake Monroe, and different places. My son, I took him there so many times. He go all the time now, because he got a bass boat, and we out fishing because he's retired, and
So
I don't know how
I'm
he
sure
got
you
it.
have the same feeling about kids that we do, as far as, helping kids.
Helping
There's no
kids.
better feeling than to help a kid. Obviously, what he's done, from Grambling, going up
Right,
to
yeah.
get these kids and get them scholarships, like we did that also at Cocoa.
Good.
Coach Humphrey, and Coach Mulligan helping these kids get scholarships.
Right.
And just, there's no better feeling.
Right,
Than
right.
to do that. And,
Right.
Coach was right there with all of his players. And I'm sure you could ask any of his players, I'm sure they're not gonna say a bad word about it. They all loved it, just like we
Right.
did, and respected him,
Right.
respected him.
Right.
Well,
Right.
you have to sometimes be the dad for kids
Mhm.
away from home.
Sure.
Like I've had kids, I've had to go in 5:20 to get the parents because they got hurt
Mm.
and they was in the hospital. I'd find them
Yep.
Wow.
because they were not there to look after them. And it
Yeah.
bothers me to see people raise kids like that even today.
Yeah.
Kids that grew up in this area here,
Mhm.
during the summer and I was home, I'd take them, the boys especially, they'd come, my neighbor had some boys back there and the ones up the street, they'd come here and I'd take them on my truck to the swimming pool, this place and other, and now they all, just like the kid that brought that golf cart to me.
Yeah. Wow.
He told me, he said, you know, when I needed a daddy, I didn't have one, but I
Wow.
had you, cause
Wow.
I could come. He
Yep.
took him up to Georgia Southern. He was gonna play football up there, but he didn't like it.
Mm.
But,
Mhm.
but there, I drove my car up there and took him
Wow. Wow.
to meet the coaches and all that, cause he was invited the day for the visitation.
Right. Right. Can do with that. I'm gonna.
We were
He went to
speaking-
Florida A&M. He graduated from Florida A&M. He's got a problem with his diabetes.
Oh, bless his
Mm.
heart. Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
but
That's a
him
good
and his
story.
mom,
That is.
Yeah. Harry, you guys.
You were speaking to kids. We've been speaking to kids. How about yours? Tell us a little bit about your kids.
oh, I got my kids. I got 2 that I sired and had 3 that I raised
Gotcha.
from my wife. My
Right.
wife had 3 girls and
Oh.
I adopted them.
Oh, good.
And I couldn't have no better group
Mm.
than them. First of all, I had the oldest girl got married to a guy when they was in school down at Miami,
Mm.
going to college. He's from a little town in South Carolina. He made a career in the military.
Mm.
And the oldest boy, when he was 12 or 13, 12 I believe he was, he committed suicide
Oh.
at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. His dad was there in the officers' college,
Mm.
and he didn't like it.
Oh.
And he wanted to go back. They just rotated from Germany.
Mm.
He wanted to go back to where his friends in Germany was,
Mm.
but he knew he couldn't.
Yeah.
So,
So
it's tough.
one day he came home from school. He was supposed to have been in there getting his lesson. His mom was doing the dinner. And she told his younger brother to go tell Aaron to come to dinner.
Mm.
And they went in. He tied his
Oh.
daddy's house school belt around his neck.
Oh.
Tied it around the bunk bed because they had bunk beds.
Sure. Mm.
And crouched down and choked himself to
Oh.
death.
Bless his heart.
it's terrible.
And she never got over it.
No, that's
And so
tough.
4 or 5 Christmases, she passed on.
Mm.
That was the oldest girl. The next oldest girl took her to South Florida after she finished the junior college here. Took her, she wanted to go to South Florida, so she went to South Florida. She majored in business and she passed her CP exam the first time she took it.
Mm.
She became a CPA.
Wow.
She lives right behind the stadium at UCF.
Oh,
She
okay.
married a fella who was from St. Petersburg, who also went to UCF and finished. And he was an engineer for Lockheed Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Got a job, so they built they got one child, and the one child went to Florida State. The girl, she's living in Atlanta. She was in New York working for Anheuser-Busch,
Mm.
but she didn't like New York. She worked, her first job was over in Tampa. Then from Tampa to Atlanta with Anheuser-Busch, and then she moved to New York, but she didn't like it. So she stepped out of Anheuser-Busch and she came back to Atlanta. She got another job with another company.
Mhm.
So she majored in what we call it,
Business.
in promotions or what they
Well,
call
public
it.
relations
relations.
maybe, or
Yeah.
something, marketing or something, yeah.
Okay.
And so
Mhm.
she does that.
Okay.
My youngest daughter lives in Atlanta.
Mm.
She went to the junior college, left here and went from the junior college up to Florida A&M, went through to school of physical therapy.
Okay.
And she's a physical therapist. She married a kid that went to Tuskegee who was a physical therapist. But he had a stroke at an early age. He was getting ready to play handball, had a stroke. And he ended up having cancer of some part of the jaw or mouth. And he died about 3 years ago.
Hmm.
Early age. They have no children.
Okay.
So she's still there working and they got a home there. My son went to the junior college, here at the junior college, got a degree in associate degree in electronics. He's gonna get him a job on the Cape, but everywhere he went, they told him he needed some experience.
Hmm.
So he went to the military, went through Redstone Arsenal, and he stayed in the military
Okay. Good for him.
for 20-some years.
Wow.
And retired. He married a girl from Daytona, and they have 2 kids. The girl is the oldest, and so she finished school at Florida A&M in the Allied Health area. She's a respirational therapist, and she was also went through ROTC, and she had to go to the military. So she went, and she flew medevacs from Afghanistan to Wiesbaden, Germany for 2 years
Wow.
with the sick and the wounded.
Hmm.
And then she met this fella I know from Tallahassee. He's from Tallahassee, near Tallahassee, really, Monticello or someplace up in there. And they got married. So she went on inactive reserves. They have 1 daughter. She's in 8th grade, something like that, 8th or 9th grade. And they live in Jacksonville. They live over near, what's the base there on the west side of Jacksonville?
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Got the
Okay.
big Navy base up there too.
Okay, and when my son committed suicide, they moved him to Jacksonville, which was closer to us. Moved
Okay.
him and his wife and the rest of the family close to us. Their oldest daughter, they sent her home from Germany to us.
Hmm.
We raised her. She went through UCF. She worked for Parks and Recs.
Okay.
Right now, she was the secretary for Parks and for North Florida Parks and Recs.
Oh wow.
But now she's moved up to gonna take over the park up in Mims.
Oh good.
She'll be the director of the park.
Wow.
Nice.
So how many grandchildren and great grandchildren do you have?
Well, I have. Let's see. Mike has 2. Sue has 1 girl. Sue worked for Florida Power and Light. She had an aneurysm and they retired her after she finished with them. She's married. She come every Thursday because she weathered that storm with the aneurysm. I thought we were gonna lose her, but she.
Oh good.
and she was working in Tallahassee for Florida Power and Light
Hmm.
at the time. They moved back to DeLand. She and her husband, they live in DeLand. And she has one,
Mhm.
and I have, Nikki has 3 great-grand. I got 3 great-grandsons.
Wow.
Nikki, 2 with Mike, that's 3,
Mhm.
and 1 with Sue, that's,
Wow.
I must have 7 or 8.
How about that?
Great.
Seven or eight grandchildren.
I'm going to ask a couple last questions. So, and I appreciate your time today, Coach. And again, Doug Cook, Harry Johnson with me. So, Doug, one thing I want to ask you is, you know, and it's unusual, you don't see this happen a lot. You're a player for Coach, and 15, 16 years later, you're a head coach, and he's on your staff. What do you think were some of the things that you learned from him as a coach, besides the thumb, that you used that when you became a coach?
I think how he treats kids.
Okay.
More so than anything. I think that was part of, you know, I came from a big family too.
Right.
7 kids, so I was always around kids. And, you know, I didn't care what color you were, black, white, or what, you know, just get out there and do your job.
Right.
Make sure you get your lesson, you know. And when I was at Cocoa, we started on a Christian foundation also.
Oh, yeah.
And we,
Yeah.
you know, we interjected that. And Ron Shaw, who
Yeah.
you know well, he was
Yeah.
our team chaplain actually.
Yeah.
So,
No, Ron.
I mean, that's what I learned from him.
Right.
Also learned from, you know, Coach Buster Rice also. But he was inspirational for me
Right.
as far as becoming a coach.
Wow.
And I picked up a lot of his stuff. I mean, I couldn't live up to him, what he's accomplished in life.
Sure.
But I certainly got a lot of his traits
Wow.
and try to interject it into my
I
program.
mentioned one of the, didn't mention one of the, I used to sponsor a Christian club at Cocoa High.
Yep.
Cocoa High School,
Fellowship
yeah.
of Christian Athletes.
Yeah, I remember when that started. Was it Moberg? I think that kind of
Yeah, Moberg
a little
was
bit
involved,
did some
yeah.
of the Lynx buses and FCA. Yeah,
Yeah, I used to drive those buses.
Yeah, he did. His son now
Richard
owns,
Myers and Mark
yeah.
Myers.
And when there used to been, what was her name? Was the assistant principal during Blake's time with Miss?
Anderson.
No, she had
An-
left
Anderson.
already.
This was after Anderson.
Oh, Fontaine.
Hmm?
Miss Fontaine.
Fontaine.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, I got a memory.
Yeah, there you go.
A little bit.
We'll chalk
Not
up
like
with
his
you.
memory, but.
She used to, when they would have class meetings sometime in the cafeteria,
Mm-hmm.
she called me over to make sure that young people didn't act up.
Well, listen, I'm looking at your picture here. I think you just walking into the cafeteria, because I went to Cocoa High School when Coach was there. Coach doesn't remember me. I was 120. I played tennis. I knew Coach though, and when Coach walked down the hall, let me just tell you, I could be doing nothing,
Exactly.
and I still felt like, oh no, you know, what am I?
He didn't put up with any foolishness, I'll tell you.
I
Well, I
can
let
see
the kids
that.
know that, you know, in those certain terms, that their behavior was part of the learning aspect.
True.
You had to.
Right.
I saw a lady not too long ago in the grocery store. She had 3 or 4 kids, and they were kind of giving her a hard way to go, and she spanked one of them. And I called her over and I said, "We got a good parent in here today." I know one time I had one of Nikki's granddaughters with me, because they sent her from Germany here. And we were in Winn-Dixie, and I said, "Sierra, don't bother the things on the counter, don't rack." And she did anyway.
Uh-oh.
And I spanked her, and this one lady come rushing up to me and gonna tell me what I couldn't do. I said, "No, baby, not today. Today she's gonna listen to me, because I'm the one look after
You're
her.
responsible.
That's right.
That's it.
And when you asked one to not do something, I didn't speak Yiddish up there. I spoke clear English to her.
No misunderstanding.
And that's what I expect her to respond to.
Right.
And that lady, she's been running through, so the other ladies up there say, you told her exactly what
I know. I want to ask, and first of all, I want to thank Harry, because he kind of helped Doug and I and Coach Leroy get everything together. And I know you have a special relationship too with Coach. So what does that mean? And again, you still visit him every week. We're going 60 years later. I love my coach. I wish I could figure out where my coach was, if he still walks the face of the earth. But that's got to be special. I mean, you've been out of high school for 50 couple years, and you still have that relationship.
Yep, sure do. It's been special through the years. Early on, we played golf together. He took me with him a few times. We went up to Bethune-Cookman, the LPGA, and played in the special golf tournaments that they had up there.
Oh, good.
You know, we've traveled around doing that, and then we've, like I said, gone to college baseball games together.
Right.
We've gone to over to see his Tampa Bay Rays. We've done that. We do the annual road trip to do that. So we've done a lot of things together. And
Miami, they bought
and yeah, we went down to Miami and actually stood on the field at the Miami Stadium there, the Marlins Stadium.
Right.
And watched batting practice.
Cool.
Guy I played baseball with, Bruce Bochy,
Yeah.
who will undoubtedly be elected into the Hall of Fame here in the next few years
Yeah.
because of his coaching
Right.
capabilities with the Giants, the San Francisco Giants, and now of course with the Texas Rangers.
Right.
He never forgotten me.
And that's the truth. We were on the field, and I was lucky enough to be able to get him on the field, and
Wow,
we were
good.
watching the batting practice, and
Good stuff.
here comes Boo Boo,
Yeah.
and recognized Coach Smith right away, and they
Wow.
had a great conversation
Very
with each
cool.
other. It was
Good.
pretty
What
cool
you
thing.
doing here?
pretty cool thing. He took care of us.
great.
Bruce took care of us as far as tickets, and Rob Leary, who was a bench coach for the Marlins for a while, and Rob, a good man. He actually orchestrated with Bruce and making all that happen. It was a cool moment. We went down there and did that. I mean, we've done a lot of things, and in recent days, and of course with Ruthie, we basically stayed pretty close to home.
Good.
We go out to dinner, lunch kind of thing. Do that at least a couple, 3 or 4 times a month, thereabouts, depending on the schedules, and we still do that.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love this man.
Right.
I mean, I love this man. One of the
Yeah.
things that I
Yeah.
did want to make sure that
Yeah.
we brought up
Right.
was in his retirement. He's been retired now
Oh, yeah.
for a couple of years.
Right.
For a couple of years, he's been recognized.
Yes.
He's been recognized, and a couple of weeks ago, I'm gonna let you tell the story. But a couple of weeks ago, I'm in tears.
Mm.
I'm in tears. I'm over up against the wall, and I'm watching the ceremony that was given by the community, and recognizing him, right up to including, and I know he's a humble man.
Mhm.
In Cocoa on 520, they're going to name a building after him. But you go ahead and tell that story there, okay?
Well, I belong to several organizations. One is my college fraternity, which is Omega Psi Phi fraternity. I was initiated in 1952 into the fraternity. I've been an active member
70 years.
for over 70 years.
Wow.
And he is active, I can tell you that.
That's amazing.
I also joined the Masonics at home up in Lake Helen, because my dad had the Masonic Hall built on his property.
Okay.
And deemed it over to the Masonics. And when I came here, I joined the Masonics here, which was Indian River Lodge 85, free and accepted Masons. And so I became active in that lodge, and it was kind of dying away.
Mm.
And the fellows in the lodge say I revived it.
Mm.
I brought it back to life.
Mm.
I served as a secretary for 15 to 16 years. I got promoted as a degree because I was the best secretary in the whole jurisdiction, which include the Bahamas,
Wow.
the Virgin Islands, Belize, and Central America, along with the state of Florida. I was chosen by the Grand Secretary as having been the best secretary of all the lodges in the jurisdiction.
Wow.
Wow.
That's good.
Then, the fellows in the lodge here, the name has been there for 133
There you
years.
go.
They named the lodge after me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here
Very cool.
recently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So from now on till somebody else, it'll be named Leroy Smith, Lodge number 85.
And there will be in the coming weeks, if not months, there a dedication with his name on the building, and that's coming. That's coming.
I served as trustee for a long time of the lodge. I made sure that whatever needed to be done to the building and things of
Right.
this sort, made sure it got done. To the extent that I got Goodson. Remember Goodson?
Get some paving?
Yeah, Goodson.
Oh, yeah.
I had him, we had an old septic tank
Hmm.
there where was there a long time ago, and then the top had fallen in and stuff of this sort and needed to be covered up. I got Goodson to bring me some sand and covered that whole place up, put it in nice shape there where it was, because we had tied into the city sewer
Okay.
line. And anything else there, like I had the insides, we had those little short toilet stools where you couldn't hardly get up like we could. I had to put in new toilets,
The
the
high
tallest
ones,
ones
yeah.
we could
That's funny.
buy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
put in there for that, and
When he was recognized a few weeks back, though, we're not talking, like 100 people. We're talking about several hundred people.
Wow.
Several hundred people, standing room only,
Mm.
and it was people from Jacksonville. The fellow from
Wow.
Jacksonville that came down
Yeah.
Wow.
made the presentation, special presentation. I mean, there was a lot of folks, and it was a big ceremony that just, I mean, it took my breath away.
Sure.
And watching him being recognized
That's cool.
for his activities and good work.
Yeah, good stuff.
well,
Well,
Anything in summary that you want to say about your retirement, though?
hmm?
Anything in summary that you want to say about your retirement?
you enjoying retirement, right?
Yeah, my church and I
There you go.
served as the chairman of the trustee board for the first 25 years that the church was in session. We bought the property from the Church of God.
Hmm.
I rode over this county and part of Orange County because the church was a new established church, to find someone to give us credit enough to
Hmm.
buy the property
Mm.
and to loan us a few $100,000 that we needed to make sure to consummate the deal.
Right.
And it was done on my signature.
Well,
And lots of folks don't realize, I don't worry, I could have moved to the biggest house in the county. But I'm here in this community, and I don't feel like I want to live higher than the next guy.
yeah. Yeah.
But I give, you should see the mail I get daily from being Doctors Beyond Borders,
Right.
kids,
Right.
St. Jude,
Mm-hmm.
places like
That's a
that.
good one, yeah.
The United Negro College Fund, you name it,
Right.
we give it, cause
Oh, good.
we ain't broke, but we ain't rich,
Mhm.
but we good enough to stay our heads above the waters,
Right.
and so you do things
Good.
because, like I say, I want to be treated. I want to treat others like I want them to treat me.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
No.
My point with his retirement is he's not done.
No, he's not.
Not
At
done.
91, not done. You know.
Well, I
Yeah,
my doctor the other
fantastic.
day up at Lake Nona, where I have to go for part of the VA program.
Right.
She was telling me, "You don't look like you're nice." I said,
I'm telling you.
Think you only 60 something. I said, yeah, when I was 60, I was a spry chicken.
Yeah.
I'm not a spry chicken.
I don't know if I'm spry anymore, but well, you know, that's great stuff. I hope you enjoyed this. You know, the first segment we did today was talking to, again, Coach Leroy Smith, my good friends Harry Johnson, Doug Cook. They went to Cocoa High School, coached at Cocoa High School when it made the transition to now present day Rockledge. Doug ended up being a head coach football at my Cocoa High School, and Coach Smith was on his staff. And in this episode, just a little bit about history, a little bit about Brevard County, giving tribute to Coach Leroy Smith, that, as you heard here as we wrap things up, just the great things he continues to do at 91 for the community, and understands the importance. And if there's anything that I take away from the conversation, the one thread that we all have in common, that his family, from his parents and probably grandparents, is education. And just how much that means. You know, we talk about sports, we talk about athletics, but it's education. Harry coached golf, you know, all these guys have coached
Football,
and been athletes,
baseball.
football, all these things he's coached. And again, that fiber, that common thread is kids, like we talked about, and education. So I hope you enjoyed, you know, just again, learning a little bit more about Brevard County, and just what great things these three gentlemen have done for the community. And as is important, honoring this young fella, this young 91-year-old, Coach Leroy Smith, that we all had the pleasure of going to school with. They had the pleasure of playing with, coaching with, and I'm just happy that Pressbox Overtime was able to bring you that story. This is Bill Maharis. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, remember, we always say sports, it's a lot more than just a game. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you.
That was good stuff, Coach.